All right, hello, welcome back. This is a video for Unit 3, Section 4, and what we're going to be doing here is we're going to be drawing trend lines. So our objective today, we want to use a graphing calculator to graph scatter plots and draw the trend line and draw a line of best fit in scatter plots to identify its purpose. So what we're going to do, a trend line closely describes the cluster of data points in a scatter plot comparing two variables. So we've been doing this in the notes in the last couple of sections where I will just go in and just draw a line that fits the data, okay? So a trend line is a line that fits the data. So a line that fits the data, okay? All right, so what we're going to actually do is we're actually going to draw these, okay? So steps to drawing a trend line using the area method. And so in this method, what we want to do is we want to identify the general trend of the data. So what I know is that my data has a positive correlation. All right, so I'm going to come in here and I'm going to write that we have a positive correlation. Okay. And then the other thing we want to do is we want to exclude all outliers. So the outliers can affect the data a little bit, but we just kind of want, if we're just drawing a trend line, okay, I'm going to eliminate this point here. Okay, this is my outlier. All right. Now, the other thing I want to do is I want to enclose the cluster of points with an oval. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to draw an oval around the data, okay? And then what we want to do is we want to bisect that shape with a line from one edge to the other from left to right. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start down here, okay, and I'm going to draw my trend line that cuts this shape in half, okay? And that's a way that we can do that. And this is our trend line. So trend line, okay? So you don't have to do this every time, but this is a way to help. So if you can just draw the trend line, that's good. But let's talk about another one, okay? So another step for drawing a trend line is divide center of data method. And in this method, we have the first two of the same steps, okay? We want to identify the general trend of the data and then exclude all outliers. So what I notice here is that we have a positive trend. We have a positive correlation. Okay, so I'm going to type that, I'm going to write that we have a positive correlation. All right, and we want to exclude all outliers. Now, in this example, we don't have any outliers, okay? But in here, it says to draw a vertical line so each side of the line has the same number of data points. So let's go in here and let's draw a vertical line that divides this evenly, okay? And so let's just count the number of points. I got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. So roughly about 6 on each side, okay? And so let me do this. I'm going to draw in a line right about here, okay? And I'm going to kind of cut this in half, all right? And it kind of goes through 2 points. And notice what I have here. I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, so I've more or less cut this data in half. And then the next step is where it gets kind of weird, okay? I want to approximate the center of the cluster located on the left side of the line and then repeat for the right side of the line. So what I want to do is I want to look at these points and I want to determine, all right, well, what's my center? These are on like the top part. These are on the bottom part. So I'm going to choose this point right here to be my center. Okay, and then what I'm going to do is I'm going to choose this point to be my center over here. And then what we do is we draw our trend line that fits the data. Okay, now here's the deal, guys. Both of these methods, all right, okay, this is just for drawing purposes only. Okay, so for both of these, this is for drawing purposes only. Okay, so try and find room to write that. I know I kind of am writing off the page a little bit, but that's what we have, okay? The next part that we're going to talk about is what we call linear regression. So what we're going to do is actually come up with an exact method to drawing a trend line, okay? So a linear regression is a sophisticated method of solving real-world problems. A regression line is developed by analyzing the relationship between the two variables okay, we have to use a calculator to analyze these real-world examples in this lesson, and you'll be able to use the interactive regression calculator to work on the problems in your assignment. So in Edgenuity, you will have this. Now, we can also do this in Desmos. We're going to show you that too. So the linear regression, this is going to be an exact trend line, where we use computers to draw that trend line, and that's what we got. So let's go to the next page. All right, so what we're going to do is we're going to use Desmos to find a trend line, and what I want to do is I want you to open up a new tab while you're watching this video, and I want you to open up Desmos.com, and we're going to go to the graphing calculator, and what we're going to do is we're going to use Desmos to find a trend line. Now, we can also do this on, you'll be able to do this on Edgenuity, but I want to show you how to do it on Desmos as well, So let's talk about this problem first, all right? 6 football teams are in the regional conference. At the end of the season, a sports analyst wrote, "This year, the teams in this region that won a lot of games did it because they were able to put a lot of points on the board. Is this statement true based on the data? Are the number of wins dependent on the number of points scored?" So what we're going to do is we're going to call this the number of points scored and the number of games won. Now, what I'm going to do in this is we have to identify our X, which is this first column, and this is our Y. Now what I'm going to do is put all these data points into Desmos, and we'll move from there. So here's my Desmos browser, and so let's go ahead and do that. Now, the first thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to hit this plus button, and in that plus button you have all these options. You have expression, note, table, folder, image. What I'm going to do is I'm going to click on the table button, and what that's going to allow me to do is to type all these numbers in. So I'm going to type in 96, and I'm going to arrow over and type in 3, The next one, we've got 109. Be patient with me. And then 5. We've got 158. God. All right, arrow over. Then we're going to type in 4. Over here we're going to do 177. And then we're going to get 7. And then 201. It wants to hit the third number I typed, but not the second number. And then 8. And then 217. And then 9. Now, the points should be popping up over here. Now, let me go all the way over here because we're talking about 96. Oh, there they are. Look at these points. And what I want to do is change my scale. So, on your computer to change your window, you want to go up to this wrench button. In our axis, all right, let's just type in, say, -1. And let's type in, our largest number is 217. Let's go ahead and do 250. And then that should be good. We should be able to see our numbers from what we've got. Wait a second here. Go back. X-axis, -1. And then here, let's do 250. There we go. So what we can see is we have this scatter plot here, And what we know is we have a line of best fit, or not a line of best fit. We have a correlation here that the more points you score, the more games you win, And so what we can do is actually find an equation that can predict however many points you score is going to be that number of games. All right, so let's do that. So let's do this. In the next box, I'm going to hit I'm going to go down into here, and I'm going to put my cursor down here. Now, what I want to do is draw a line of best fit. And here's what we can do. Let's do this. You want to make sure you're using the keyboard here, okay, to do this. But let's come in here, and I want to type in, and let's write this down on our paper, that we type in y sub 1 is approximately, so we're going to use this tilde to show us m times x sub 1 plus b. And that will give us the line of best fit. And that's going to plot it on here and fit the data. Okay, so let's go here. Let me type this in. I'm going to type in y. And then to get my sub 1, I have to click on the ABC button. And then you see this button down here where you've got a sub b. Okay, that's the one that we want to use. And what that's going to do is it's going to put the cursor as an underscore on my value. I'm going to put y sub 1. Okay, and then I want to arrow over so that we're out of our that little one spot, and we're going to go back to ABC, and I'm going to type in my tilde. Okay, and then I'm going to do this. Okay, I'm going to type in m x, and then put my sub 1, so x sub 1. All right, get out of there, and then my line kind of just all of a sudden pops up, and then we're going to do plus, and then hit B. And what we have is we have this trend line now, okay? And this trend line shows us various points on that line. Now notice how this trend line doesn't go through any of these points, okay? And that's okay. But what we can do, and let me move this thing down over here, what it tells us is it gives us our slope and our y-intercept. Okay, notice how our slope is positive. Notice how we have a positive trend. Okay, it's a really low slope. Okay, it's not going up very fast, but that's the idea. Okay, so that's what we've got. So now let's go back to the question: is the statement true based on the data? Okay, are the number of wins dependent on the number of points scored? And the answer to that question is yes. Okay, so wins are determined by how many points you score. So wins depend on points scored. Okay, and that's that. All right, let's jump down to the next one where we can make predictions from trend lines. Okay, and I'm going to do this. I'm going to open this up again. I'm going to come in here. Give me 1 second. All right, so what I've got is I've got another Desmos calculator. I'm going to do the exact same thing. You have the ability to do this in Desmos, or I'm sorry, in Edgenuity, but let's do it in Desmos. And I want to come in here and I want to make another table. Okay, so I'm going to type these numbers in, 10 and then 25. Okay, I'm going to type in 12 and then 22. Okay, I'm going to type in 14, 17. Okay, I'm going to type in 15, and then 12, and then I'm going to type in 17, and then 8. Okay, so over here now, now that I have this, what I want to do is I want to change, because none of these points are popping up. Okay, and so I'm going to go to my value here. I'm going to type in, I usually just standard -1 so I can see that part of the graph. My largest x value is 17, so I'm going to make a window and put 20. Okay, now my y-axis, we do need to change that. My largest y value is 25. My smallest y value is 8. So I'm going to do 30. Whoops. I'm going to go from -1 to 30 so that all these points pop up. Okay, so here's my data points. Okay, from this scenario. Now what I want to do is I want to do the same thing. I'm going to type in my line of best fit. So same thing. I'm going to do y sub 1 tilde m times x sub 1 plus b. Okay, that's what I'm going to type into this part here. All right, so I'm going to do that. And we're going to do y, okay, sub 1, arrow to get out of my sub 1 part. Go back to ABC, type in my tilde, m x sub 1, get out of my sub part, and then plus, and then b, okay? And notice what we have there, okay? We have this trend line that is drawn, okay? And the other thing I want you to notice is that we have a slope here of negative 2.54795, and my y-intercept is 51.4521, okay? So that's what I've got. That's my trend line, okay? Now, let's write that trend line down, okay? I've got y equals negative 2.54795, and let's just round 2.55, okay, round to 2 decimal places, x, and then plus 51.45, okay? Now, what does a negative trend line mean for the data shown? So let's just talk about this problem in context, okay? What we have is we have x is the price of a shirt, and y is the number sold at that price. So as the price of a shirt goes up, okay, and here's what we're noticing, okay, as the price of a shirt goes up, okay, the number that you sell goes down, okay? So if a shirt is more expensive, you're not going to sell as many of those shirts, okay? And that's what this data shows. So let's write that in here, okay? So what does the negative trend line mean for the data shown? And what that means is that as the price of a shirt goes up, the number sold goes down, okay? So that's what, and think about that. Let's say you go to like a really, really nice store and no one's in there except for the salesperson. And what they're doing is they're sitting there and they're going, "Hi, can I help you?" And you're like, "No, I'm just browsing." And you go in, you're like, "Everything's out of my cost. I can't afford anything in here." They don't have as many people going into that store. However, when they do make a sale, they make a lot of money. So they don't need to make as many sales to make their amount of money. Now you go to a different store, a store that's not as high end, and you've got a lot of people in there. Like I would say, for example, like an Old Navy or like a Kohl's, and they just have like mountains and mountains of clothes, and it gives you anxiety. Okay, they're moving a lot of stuff. Okay, but their stuff isn't as expensive as, say, like a place like Nordstrom, where there aren't as many people there. So it's just kind of a different, kind of what you got. All right. So now, here's what you got. All right. So the question is the regression line that we drew a good predictor for any values of x? And that would be true. Okay, because these lines are really, really close. And the reason for that is because you have a high association. Okay, so you have a high association. So yes, this is a good predictor. Okay, and that's all we're doing. Now what we will do is we will use these lines of best fit to help us graph things in the future. So I hope you enjoyed this video. We'll see you in a bit. Thanks a lot. Bye.